Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Shafali, and welcome everyone today uh, for our very special event. I'm Neha Khandelwal, founder of Indian Women's Circle. And for those who are joining us for the very first time, I would like to take this opportunity to share a little bit about Indian Women's Circle. Indian Women's Circle, founded in 2015, is one of its kind group, a close-knit and trusted community of more than 3,800 Indian women in Greater Toronto area. Indian Women's Circle aims to provide a platform to create meaningful social connections and socialization opportunities through in-person and virtual meetups and events. Secondly, to create a platform to seek and share day to day vital information ranging from buying a home to information about schools to kids' activities to finding a doctor or even some career advice. Third, to empower and support our Indian women entrepreneurs through our unique and curated business directory website by bringing exposure to their businesses and them as entrepreneurs. And last but not the least, to support the cause for spreading awareness for maternal mental health by partnering with a global organization. And with that, let me introduce you to all of you to our very special guest, Shafali Kapoor. Shafali is an old member of Indian Women's Circle, a dear friend, and a licensed immigration consultant, and also owns a travel agency. Shafali, a very warm welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today here for this event.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you so much for having me. And I know we've had this conversation so many times that, we should do this event. So finally, we're doing it. I'm happy about it. And I'm so, so, so honored to be here.
Thank you, thank you. In past couple of weeks, so many people have posted on our group about queries related to immigration, the travel process during the COVID, super visa queries, certain very specific queries, and I was thinking, we need to do something like, I know you, so, for everybody, I know I called Shafali and said, Shafali, so many questions are coming like this, like you have to come on the group and, talk about it. And she's like, yes, let's do it. And so, this is how this event got really planned. So once again, welcome Shafali. And, before we go ahead, I would just like you to introduce yourself a little bit. Tell everybody, what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'd love to do that. I love to talk and I love to talk about myself. So I'd love to share. My name is Shafali Kapoor, originally from India, immigrated to Canada about 12 years ago with my husband. I've gone through that entire cycle of, permanent residence and acquiring citizenship and all of that, just like everybody else. We're a typical immigrant. So I'm very, very passionate about this cause. What I do, I am. I love to call myself an entrepreneur because I think I've been doing it so long that I think I can use that tag now. So I started a travel business with my husband about 10 years ago. We launched that business here in Toronto, and we did it for a good, I mean, we still do it. It's not that we've stopped it. We still do it. And while I was in the travel business, I realized my passion for immigration. I realized how important this life-changing process is for so many people. And I would often notice that many people would get cheated, would get incorrect information, and a lot of my clients would reach out to me asking if we could help them with immigration. But because immigration, I mean, you need to be licensed to practice that profession, I decided I'm going to jump into this into this field and get my licensing and my education in this field. So I went through all of that. And for the last 3.5 years, I've been practicing as a licensed Canadian immigration consultant here in Toronto itself. My office is at Allen and Shepherd in North York. Other than the travel business and the immigration business, I also own I'm also an approved RCMP vendor. So we do the Canadian police clearance, whether it's for immigration, whether it's for citizenship, whether it's for background verification, employment, so basically any kind of Canadian police verification check, we do that. So we're licensed and approved by the RCMP. So that's in short about my professional journey. And other than that, I'm a mother of two young boys, and that's another reason why I'm in the group.
Yeah, yeah. Me also, mom of two boys. So yeah, boys club here.
Absolutely. Yes. And I don't know, it's so funny. All my friends have boys. Like, where are the girls? My kids keep
Like
telling me.
it's like you're attracting the same, the same kind of people probably.
Yeah, maybe because all my friends have boys. Like, we rarely have girls, are in our immediate friend circle. I think we need girls. Girl power.
Oh my God, yes, that's so true. That's so true. Well, again, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. So let's deep dive in our event. So what I did, Shafali, I went through a lot of questions through our group, and I have just jotted down some key points and key questions that were common across multiple people. So we'll begin with that, and then we'll also take some live questions. So everybody who's watching us live today, please feel free to ask your questions in the comments, and we will be able to take that. And some of you also shared a few questions through our Facebook group, which we will also try to address as well in this event. So with that, my first question is, Shafali, if you can share that, during these current COVID restrictions in place, who is actually allowed to travel? I think it's one of the questions that everybody has queries on, confusion about. So if you can tell that to us, that would be great.
Absolutely. So, you know what? There are two prongs to this question. Who is allowed to come to Canada? And then who's allowed to go to India?
Absolutely.
Since I'm a Canadian, I'm a Canadian immigration consultant. I will majorly touch base on points and travel restrictions and everything pertaining to Canadian immigration. But obviously, because it's an Indian women group, I'm happy to answer and also happy to go over travel restrictions to India. But I might not go too deep into it because then we'll probably be sitting here all night. In terms of so we'll start with Canadian, right? So people coming to Canada, there are several restrictions in place. Not everybody and anybody can come to Canada at this point in time, and I foresee that those restrictions remaining in place at least up until everybody in Canada has at least one dose of the vaccine. Right now I think we're sitting at 60%. There have been talks at the federal level that they might get rid of the quarantine requirements. They might get rid of the hotel quarantine for vaccinated travelers. But when that will be implemented, we don't know. So as of right now, coming to Canada is not as easy. Who is on the exempted list? Immediate family members. So who are the immediate family members? Immediate family members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents in Canada. People who fall under the immediate family members are spouses, children, and parents. So whether and of either spouse. So it's not necessary that both husband and wife need to be Canadian citizens or permanent residents. Even if one of them is, and then their in-laws are coming, they're still permitted to come, as long as at least one member of the family is a permanent resident or Canadian citizen. Spouses, of course, they're allowed. Temporary foreign workers who either work in an essential sector. There is a list of occupations that are essential in Canada. So people on that, if they work in Canada and they're recently approved of a work permit and they have to come here for the first time, only if they're in the essential list, they can travel. Temporary workers in Canada who already have work permits and have a job and Canada is their country of residence, they can come to Canada. International students who already are probably studying in Canada, but they traveled back for some reason, or even new students who are just getting their study permits, they're also permitted to travel as long as their DLI, so designated learning institution, the university or the college that they're coming to is on the approved list. Then those students can also come. And visitors who are traveling only for an essential purpose. So if there is no essential purpose, you cannot come. You just can't get up and come. You need a travel authorization to come to Canada for visitors. And how you get that travel authorization, there is a web form. The person who is to travel has to request for a travel authorization. They have to give proof of what is the necessary reason. So what is the essential reason for them to travel, whether it could be an explanation or it could be a public health approval. It could be on humanitarian and compassionate grounds. Let's assume there's a death in the family here in Canada and they need to travel. Giving an example, we just heard of that little 19-year-old boy who died at Wasaga Beach, right? Yeah. So unfortunate. But now if his parents have to travel for the funeral, they can come on humanitarian and compassionate grounds. So there has to be an essential reason for travel, or you need to be on the exempt list to travel. If you're not on the exempt list, then you cannot travel. That is about coming to Canada. Now, that is in terms of the exemptions. But right now, the problem is people from India, because of the bans on the flights from India, can't even take like it's not a straightforward travel. It's around the world travel. Right now, people are coming from Serbia, from Mexico City, from Dominican Republic. So they're going all over the world. They have to quarantine in that particular country for at least 2 to 3 days, get their negative COVID test, and then with that report, they have to come to Canada. And the reason why they did that was because Canada found out that a lot of people from India were carrying false reports. Those were fake negative reports, and they were traveling with those fake reports, which was creating havoc, as we all know, right? So that is the reason they said that so the flights from India were banned, and then people had to travel from another country, from a third country, get a COVID negative test from that country, and then travel to Canada. So right now, I think the most popular destination that people are actually going to is Mexico City and Dominican Republic.
Okay, going there, basically quarantine over there, get the test.
Quarantine is not a requirement. It is only required for the negative test, right? Because once you do the test, it takes you 2 days or 3 days to get the result.
Okay.
And then up until you get the negative report, you have to stay there in a hotel.
Got it. Understood. Yeah. No, I think many people want to come here, especially, our parents or in-laws, a lot of people like families back home, and they want to travel here.
So in terms of our parents, like most of us are Canadian citizens or permanent residents, our parents can literally get up, pack their bags if they have a visa, and they can come. The problem is right now the flights, but hopefully right now those bans up until July 31st on the flights. Okay. They might be extended, they might not be extended. We can't say for sure. But yes, right now bans are there until July 31st.
Okay. So I guess when we're talking about parents, I'll dive into the question around super visa. And again, had lots and lots of queries around that as well. So the question that I want to ask is what is the time frame now for processing of the super visa for parents? And are they processing applications back in India? What is the process right now? During COVID, has anything changed?
This is an amazing question, and I get this so much. And I was waiting for this question. Parents for visas for parents, whether it's a super visa or it's a visitor visa, is okay. So let me go back first. They are not processing visitor visa applications as normal. And the reason is because visitors are not allowed, right? Now, when you submit an application online, there is no way for immigration to know who's applying for this visa. What is the purpose of these? So they're not actually going through these applications to see, oh, this is a parent, okay, let us process this. Oh, this is not a parent, so we're not. So they're not doing that. So once you submit your application, what IRCC wants you to do is, there is a web form, a specific web form, again, the same one that you use to get a travel authorization. You go into that web form and you submit a request to process your parents' application on urgent basis, because they're on an exempt list. Because they are on exempt list, IRCC will pick up that application and process it. But here is the problem. In India, they're not doing biometrics for visitors. So if your parents have never done biometrics in the past, IRCC is not going to process the application unless there is a situation in Canada for which your parents have to urgently travel. For example, again, humanitarian and compassionate reasons, funeral in the family, death in the family, or something like that. They will exempt the parents to do their biometrics. But as of right now, so I'll give you an example. For my father, he's been waiting to do his visitor visa renewal only because he's stuck. He's never done biometrics in the past, because when he got the visa before, biometrics were not mandatory, but right now biometrics are mandatory. So he has not been able to get his application processed, even though he's on the exempt list, because he doesn't have he can't do his biometrics. Now, when are they going to open biometrics for visitors? We can't say. There was a time when they were doing it for students, for workers. They were doing it for sponsorship applications or permanent resident applications for spouses and parents, but that's about it. They never, since COVID started, they never opened biometrics for visitor visa applications. So people who've never done biometrics will not be able to get their visas processed, whether it's super visa, whether it's visitor visa, or anything. But if your parents have ever done biometrics in the past for anything, or if they can travel, right now is not the time, but there were people who were traveling outside of India, like to Dubai, to Nepal, to other countries, to get their biometrics done. If you're able to do your biometrics elsewhere, then you can put in that travel authorization request, and they'll pick up the application and process. I'll give you an example. I had a client that I did a travel authorization request for. His mom was in New Zealand with their other daughter when I submitted the application for visitor visa. And this was all during COVID. So she was in New Zealand, the biometrics were open. She did the biometrics there, and we got the visa in 2 weeks. Right? But that's because she was able to do the biometric, and she could even travel. She could even travel during COVID because she was on the exempt list. But if you're not doing, if you've not done biometrics, then no. But otherwise, you can submit a request for parents to get it processed.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's very, very helpful. I think we have one of the comments, someone is saying that VAC centers are not allowing for biometrics. So
that's right.
Yeah, so I guess the key point to note is that if the parents have ever done it once, then at least go through that BEF form and put in that request so that your application gets picked up. Otherwise, it won't be even picked up, right?
No, that's right. They need to know that you're on the exempt list.
Right. Okay.
I'll give an example. For example, let's say there's a spouse that has to travel. How do I give you an example? So because I deal with so many applications, so I know how to get I know the loopholes, right? So I'll give you an example. I had an applicant, a couple who had recently got married just before COVID hit, and then the spouse came to, the husband came back to Canada because he lived here, he was on a work permit, and then the wife was in India. So they applied for a work permit. COVID had not started, but her work permit got refused. They did it themselves, so the work permit got refused. Then they reached out to me to do their PR application. Now, because the wife had already done her biometrics for her PR and before for the work permit, we applied for the visitor visa, and after the PR application was submitted, and we were able to request an authorization on her application and get it picked up for processing because her biometrics were already in the system, right? So we were able to get it processed. So here, the biggest problem in India right now is the biometrics. That's the problem.
Okay. No, I think that's very, very helpful to understand what actually is happening, because you submit an application and you are thinking, okay, we'll wait for some notification or, some acknowledgement that application is in process or, some sort of date, and you kind of wonder, right? So, thank you for sharing that. And actually, there is a question around that same thing, which I'll shoot right now. So the question is, how long do they take to process the COPR? I'm not sure of the full form, after submitting the credentials? We've been waiting since 2 weeks and third week now, and would you know?
Yeah, so you know what? I can't really put a timeline on when they will be issuing COPR. So COPR is a confirmation of permanent residence. I have I have this all over the place. So I have had a lot of clients in the past couple of weeks who've been getting their a request invitation to the permanent residence portal, and probably it's French to you, Neha, but the person who's asked this question will understand. So once you get the confirmation, the invitation to the PR portal, the timeline after that is varying. I have clients who are waiting for the credentials for a week, 10 days. Some people get it within 24 hours. Some of my clients got the COPR right after submitting their picture and, so it's all over the place. And some of them have been waiting for a month. So I can't really put a timeline to that. But the good news is if you got the credentials to the PR portal, it's coming. You'll be a PR really soon.
Oh, that's a positive sign for us then, right? That's good. That's great. Okay, so moving on to our next question, it is mainly around the OCI, and so many of us, and including me, I need to apply for my OCI, and many of other people on the group, they want to apply for OCI applications. So what is the current process of OCI applications in Canada? Do you know how long it's taking? Because I know that ideal time, last year before COVID hit was like 3 to 4 weeks, max 5 weeks. And now in the last 6 months, what I heard is like it's taking 4 months and even more. So if you can just touch base upon that, I think that would be very helpful to many of us.
Yeah, that's right. It's taking about 2 months. To be honest, it's taking about 2 months to actually get your OCI card in your hand. And the reason is that OCI applications so the OCI card is actually printed in India. They print that card in India. So once you submit your application, everything goes to India, and then it's processed there, it's printed there, and then it's shipped back to you. So that's the reason it takes that long. In terms of the process, so OCI is a two-step process. The first step is that you have to fill up an online application, upload your documents on that online portal, including your picture. Once you've submitted that, then that you can print the same form and then attach your documents and the same picture that you uploaded on the portal. There cannot be any discrepancies. You cannot upload one picture on the portal and then submit another picture to BLS. It has to be exactly the same. No discrepancies in your information either. Everything has to be as per the passport and as per the your documents, because if there's even one small mistake, BLS sends the application back. So that's quite a hassle, because the problem with BLS is that they hold on to the applications for a very long time because of the huge workload that they're dealing with right now, especially because of the police clearance request. Like Canada has, the immigration in Canada has exploded, and and we all know that majority of the people who apply for permanent residence in Canada are Indians. So BLS has been really busy all through this COVID. Plus COVID, I mean, social distancing and all the restrictions doesn't make things any easy for any business to operate. So you have to make sure that your application is 100% complete and the information matches to your documents. Once you mail out your documents, so every jurisdiction has a different checklist. Ottawa has a different checklist, Vancouver has a different checklist, and then the Toronto jurisdiction has a different checklist. Make sure you download the same checklist that is required. You have to do 2 different drafts. One draft in the name of the High Commission, and then the other draft in the name of BLS International. And then you mail out the application. You also have to send out some of your original documents, such as your passport, your landing documents, your citizenship certificate. They verify all of that information, and then they eventually send you your original documents back. If you get your original documents back, that means they've processed your application, and it will be sent to India for final printing of the OCI card. So you send it to once it's all sent out, that's it. Then after that, it only takes about 2 to 3 weeks for the OCI card to actually be printed and then to be shipped back.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. Yeah.
And the sad part is, you'll have to do the process yourself. Unlike Canadian immigration, you can't really do it.
Yeah, through some agent or
You
right
can't do it through
agency.
agents.
Yeah.
Now, there could be some people who work at the BLS who've been doing, things out of the queue for other people. Because I know some people who do it, they charge money for it, but really, they're not authorized to do that stuff outside of the queue. But I mean, if you know somebody, you can definitely do it if you
Mhm.
want to pay that kind of money. But really, BLS has no. I mean, BLS is a third party, right, to process it. BLS is like VFS in India for
Right.
Canadian documentation. So BLS is the third party. You have to go through them for everything, and there's really no jugaad, as we say.
Right. That's true. Yeah, no, it's a lot of work, and it's a very thorough application, and even our citizenship application is pretty thorough, and you
I
really
sometimes feel Canadian PR applications are simpler than the OCI application. It's so
the OCI
complicated.
definitely needs way a lot documentation
I
than
don't know
here. Yeah, I
why.
don't know why,
Like,
right? Yeah.
complicate things so. But okay, a Canadian PR application also, some of the questions are too obsolete. Sometimes I fill up the forms and I'm thinking, why do you want to know that? Like, what are you going to do with that information? But
I personally feel like, once you're a Canadian citizen and you're applying for an OCA, it should be an easier process versus a crazy extensive one, because more than half of your work is already done. You've like verified everything is kind of done in that way. But I guess it's because it's India now, right? Like that's coming into place, and they're also making sure everything is kind of proper and as per the rules, probably. So
yeah,
with that, I
but
will.
no, getting an OCI, I think, is the best thing to do. You get it once and for all, and
Yeah.
it's perfect.
I think there was a question I read, and I thought I'll bring it up right here. That do we need to reapply for OCI if your passport expires? Is that the case?
You need to reapply for your OCI if your passport expires. No, no, no. You don't need to reapply for your OCI. OCI is only done once
Okay.
and that's it. But after you turn 50, you have to redo the OCI. But right now during COVID, they've removed that requirement. So even people over 50 don't need to get a new OCI.
Okay.
But usually the normal requirement is once you turn 50. I don't know why the person doesn't change. But still they want you to do it again. But if your passport expires, then all you really need to do is, once you've got your passport renewed, you have to get your same OCI revalidated. So you have to just send it for revalidation. So
Okay.
so when you see your OCI card, on the bottom it will say your passport number. So that means that OCI is linked to a particular passport, right? So you travel with your passport and your OCI when you go to India. But then once your passport expires, then you get a new passport. So you just have to send that information to the consulate again to tell them, now I have a new passport. Can you put my new passport number on the OCI card?
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Yeah.
It's a fairly easier process.
Simple
It's not
process.
that complicated, but still, I mean, you still have to fill up a form, you
Right.
still have to go through BLS, which is quite, I think, very complex.
Okay, okay. And like those were the main questions, but I guess we're getting a lot of comments. So I'm gonna pull up few comments and see if we can address some of those questions. So this is a question. I'm not sure by like I can't see your name, everyone. I just want to say I don't see your names, but I'll read the comments. So I will complete my 3 years in mid-July without traveling anywhere. Before that, I was in Qatar. So when I apply for citizenship, what are the basic requirements for an application? I know we have to give 3 years of tax assessment travel history. And is the police clearance also for a period of 5 years? A little
So,
bit specific.
so if you've completed 1095 days in Canada, you can apply for your citizenship. Now, you have to give your 3 years tax assessment. You just have to give your SIN number, to be honest. You don't have to give your tax assessment documents. You have to give your SIN number. And even for the police clearance, if you don't have to give your police clearance for citizenship applications are very straightforward. You don't have to give your police clearance unless they ask for it. So you can just submit your application and then they'll ask for a police clearance if they need it. But otherwise you don't have to, but you have to give a SIN number. So don't forget your SIN number. Your physical presence calculator is very important. It has to be signed on a particular date, the day you completed the So you have to make sure of that as well. And you have to calculate your days in Canada on that physical calculator. But you don't have to give your tax assessment documents. You just have to give your SIN number. If you don't give your SIN number, they'll return your application. But that's about it. And you don't have to give your police clearance. If they ask for it, then you have to provide it.
Okay. I'll take another question. So, in a couple, can my spouse and daughter be citizens and I keep as PR? Any pros and cons with that, such permutation and combinations?
No, there are no there's no problem. You can be a permanent resident. Once you all become permanent residents, everybody meets your own individual residency obligation. Of course, if your child is a minor, then they don't have to meet that requirement. You can go ahead, stay. You can remain a PR. There are no pros and cons as such. The only negative will be that you have to constantly keep renewing your PR card, and then you have to keep proving your eligibility, that you've met your residency obligation. Only then you can get a PR card, which I feel is a cumbersome process. Why do you want to go through that hassle? The second thing is, every time you have to travel, let's assume as a family you want to travel somewhere, your kids, your spouse and your daughter can just get up and pack their bags and go wherever they want on the next flight. You'll have to apply for a visa. You can't travel, right? Let's say you want to go to Australia for a vacation. Your husband and daughter will pick up their bag and they'll go, and you'll have to wait for the visa. Similarly, UK, right? With the passport, your travel becomes visa free, basically. In terms of the residency obligation, if you guys ever decide to move outside Canada and let's say you say, okay, now we want to live a few years in Dubai, the good thing is that because you will be with a Canadian spouse, you will not have to meet your residency obligation, because automatically because you're living outside Canada with a Canadian spouse, you are meeting your residency obligation. So yeah, that's those are the only pros and cons, I think. Nothing other than that.
Okay, thank you, Shafali. I think there's another question around the super visa. So thank you, Shafali and Neha, for this event. I have one further question. Can a parent apply for super visa from India and proceed to do biometrics elsewhere? I guess you kind of answered that question, right?
Absolutely. You can go and do biometrics anywhere. Just book the appointment on biometrics website, like VFS website. Just make sure that you're going to the VFS website of that specific countries. For example, let's say Dubai, right? So you can go to the UAE VFS site and then book an appointment there, and they can go and do the biometrics there, and it will be updated on the system, and then you can do the web form that please process our application, and they'll process it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, with that, I'm going to take two questions that were asked beforehand on our group. So I'm gonna read that. Give me just a moment. So I think Pallavi from our group, she had a quick question, and I know you've kind of covered a couple of them, but I'll still go through it. So I want to apply Indian visa for my baby born here in Canada. Which is the better option, OCI, visitor visa, or express visa? And what is the current processing time of all the above visas during pandemic? And that kind of touched base upon as well. And she also wanted to know express visa duration of a stay in one go. And one more question, a lot of questions in one question. Is it true that OCI is valid till passport is valid? So I guess we have covered couple of these questions, but I guess I'll go with the first one. Like, which is the better option, OCI visitor visa or express visa for her baby who's born here in Canada?
So I'm a big supporter of OCI cards. Earlier, I think up until 2000, and I don't remember the year, but I think a couple years ago, we had something called as a PIO, a person of Indian origin card, and then we had an overseas citizen of India card. So we, as who were born in India, who had Indian passports, and then we immigrated to Canada and got Canadian citizenship or permanent residence status, we were eligible to get an OCI card, which is an overseas citizen of India card. Whereas our children who were born in Canada and were Canadian citizens by birth, they could only apply for a PIO, which is person of Indian origin. They would be eligible for that card because they were our children, right?
Right.
So they were person of Indian origin. They were our children. So the government changed that rule. They got rid of the PIO. I think Narendra Modi did that when he came in power. He got rid of that PIO completely, and then he said that everybody will get an OCI. Everybody, whether it's children, whoever, anybody and everybody will get an OCI. So I am a big supporter of OCI, and many reasons for that. You can literally get, like, times like these, like today, if you have an OCI card, you don't have to worry about emergency travel. If you want to go there to be with our parents, because all of, like, our parents are in India, and in this time, like, it's such a scary environment, especially in India. We all went through trauma in the last 2 months with whatever was happening in India, right? Like, I think it was just such a stressful time for all of us, and so many of us, in the group also, and so many people I know have lost their family members. So I think OCI, to have that, it's really good, because then you can literally just get up, book your ticket, and travel the next day. With the visa, it's a hassle to go through that process, go through BLS or go to the consulate, get your visa done and all of that. Plus there's a limit to stay in India on that visa. So just get an OCI. I know it's hard in the beginning to go through that process of dealing with BLS and dealing with the consulate, but once it's done, then you're over with it. Then you don't have to worry about it, and travel becomes hassle free for you. So definitely a big supporter of OCI.
Yeah, I guess like if you don't have to travel for any emergency, then it's best to apply for OCI.
Plus, you know what? Right now, because of COVID, government has sort of gotten rid of all the other visa processes. If you need an emergency visa, which is also now called as the entry visa, you can only get it from from the consulate. So you have to go to the consulate and tell, like, you have to apply directly with them for an entry visa. So although I'm not, like, I only do Canadian immigration, I don't do too much of an Indian visa work. But as far as my understanding goes, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anybody who has more information about that, I don't think so there are any e-visas anymore right now because of COVID. They got rid of that because they had to be more particular to make sure who's coming to Canada, because not everybody was allowed to come to Canada, right? Sorry, to go to India, like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess we had that e-visa which you could apply for 4 days before traveling, right?
That was a very popular visa, but
Right.
that's not happening anymore. So now they have something called as an entry visa, and you need to go and give a purpose of why you're traveling to India.
Right. Right. Okay.
So you can go to the consulate and get that, also called as an entry visa or an emergency visa.
Okay, no, that's very helpful to know, because sometimes you don't realize that these processes have changed, and unless until you go and read the website or come to know through someone else, right?
There's not much information available on that, to be honest. We just learn from our experience, and because we are also in the travel business, we deal with, like, everybody who's been wanting to go to India and who does, like, we get clients who have to travel in an emergency because some of their family members have expired or something has happened back home. So they come to us, and then they're like, they have to get a visa if they don't have an OCI, right? And it's a hassle. It's like, one, you're going through trauma in general, and on top of that, if you have to go through the paperwork of getting a visa and everything, I think we all should be just prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for answering that. There's one more question. It looks very very specific, and you might understand. And this is asked by Neha Sharma on our group. So her question is: my LMIA was done with the NOC code 2147.
Just a second here. I don't see the question on the screen,
Yeah.
and I can't, so I want to read that question too.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I will try. So bear with me once.
Because all your other questions were coming on the screen.
Yeah, this is from the group. Like, I picked up from the group, but let me try if I'm able.
No, I think she's commented in the comment box too, and let me read it from there if you want.
Oh, you know what? I think I'll be able to get it. Partly. Let's see if I'm able to get it. So, okay, there we go. So my LMIA was done with NOC code 2147. In my EE profile, I wrote 2173, which is the closest to my work. I have got an ITA now. Do I need to change the NOC code in EE profile to profile? Yeah, I think that's the question. Do I need to change the NOC code in the profile?
Okay, so this is complicated and this is very, very case specific. I would personally like, I wouldn't want to give a very case specific consultation here because I need to understand the situation. I need to, and this is like, knock codes are very complicated. Um, if your LMI was done with NOCO 2147 and now you're writing 2173, are you overlapping that experience? The job duties, how different are they? Have you ever done work based on the 2147? Um, it's complicated, right? Your employer will have to also provide a little bit of an explanation why you're using the 2173 knock. If I was you, I would just go with the 2147 just to not risk your profile because you don't know how the visa officer is going to perceive the whole thing. um but again, my suggestion is, Neha, if you want to call me, we can talk in detail about it. You can get my number from Neha. Don't worry about the consultation. I will take care of that, but I can talk to you in person and answer that question for you.
Thank you, Shifali. And I think there's a second part of this question, which I'll show now. So she's also asking that I worked for an organization for 6 years and kept on reporting into head office, but I resided at 3 different locations in these 6 years. Do I need to mention all of them separately? All I have is one exit letter from the company head office after I resigned. So again, a little bit specific,
Yes.
but
So if you worked at 3 different locations, and specifically if they were 3 different countries, you should definitely mention all those three jobs in different rows. So you should segregate all your experience of those 3 different locations. Yeah, I mean, but you don't really even need to mention foreign experience for all of 6 years. You can just mention 3 years. But since it was the same company, let's just mention 6 years. Mention divide them in 3 different rows, and then one document is just fine. Like one letter from your employer stating that you worked from this date to this date and you've reported at 3 different locations. So one letter is good. um, Pay stubs and proof of employment, so bank statement or a tax summary, whatever, like your form 16 or whatever you were getting, whichever country you were in. You can attach those. So yeah, try to make your application as comprehensive as possible so that the visa officer understands exactly what you're trying to do.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you so much, Shafali. That was actually quite a complicated, very application specific
Yes,
question.
yes, and I don't like to talk about this is too specific and a lot of people will probably get bored. What are they talking about?
Okay. So, okay, there's a very different question which I'm gonna take here. So, thank you for this event, Kriti. The site. Hi, Kriti. I have a query. Should I use any special scanner for the document scanning for PR application document submission? I'm using Tiny Scanner, and I have used the same for my work permit document submission, which got approved.
I don't care what scanner you use. Just make sure that all documents are colored, scanned. So they should be colored. Specifically, your police clearances, absolutely important, and also your job letters, very important. They should be colored, and yeah, just very clear copies and colored copies of the scan. Other than that, doesn't matter what you're using.
Okay. Right. We have another query on our event. Hi, Shafali. Can you please explain the process of PR stages? We have applied for PR and medical is cleared. How long can I take, or how long it will take to get the PR card?
So I just answer that question. You know what? As an immigration professional, I think it's going to be very unprofessional for me to put a timeline to the process, specifically during COVID. We all know, things are messed up. Everything is messed up. But what I can tell you is express entry applications, especially Canadian experience class, are being processed at lightning speed. Like today I got a confirmation of PR for my client that was actually PR portal invitation that was submitted on April 30th. So less than 2 months. So you can get it anytime, to be honest. Depending on when you submitted. Did you submit it in 2021? Then you can expect it really fast. But if it was submitted in 2019, I think those applications are being processed in a very different manner. So that are still taking time. Sorry, 2020. But 2021, they are on fire. IRCC is on fire right now.
That's good to know, right?
No, honestly, inside Canada, I think IRCC is doing a fantabulous job with the processing, even spousal sponsorships, 2 to 3 month processing time. The problem is outside Canada, and I feel really bad for those people who are invested and who have family here, especially spouses, and it's very unfortunate. And grandparent sponsorship, disaster.
Yeah. And it's like it's heartbreaking, right? Like, oh my God, it's gonna take so long, and how they're gonna come, and the whole entire process, right? So
It
it's
is
gonna
very slow. It is very slow.
very slow. There is one more question, Shafali. Again, I know you have touched base upon it, but I just wanna, kind of share it here. So just give me 1 second. It is from Lavanya, from our group, and I'll try to share it as well over here. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So I have a question regarding super visa and visit visa for parents of PR holder. I would like to know what is the current status on issuance of these visas currently due to the COVID limitations. So I think we covered it a lot in the beginning, but um,
I'll just quickly answer it for her.
details.
Maybe she's online right now and she's
Yeah.
watching. So, if your parents have ever done any kind of biometrics in the past, you can do a web form and inform the visa office that your parents are on an exempt list to travel because they are parents of a Canadian citizen or permanent resident in Canada, and attach documentations of proof of relationship to show that they are on the exempt list, and their application will be picked up for processing. However, if your parents have never done biometrics in the past, then unfortunately you'll have to wait unless you're willing to have your parents fly out of India to some other country where they can travel, like Dubai or Nepal or somewhere where they can do their biometrics. Then maybe their application will be processed. But until biometrics are done, things look pretty not nice.
Not nice, right? You know what? I'll also clarify one more thing. So by exempt list, you mean that if we are, so let's say I'm the Canadian citizen, right? If I want to apply for my parents, then that they are automatically on the exempt list, right?
Yes, they're automatically on the exempt list. In fact, even right now, Neha, if your mom wants to come and visit you, she can come because she's on the exempt list to travel because she's a parent of a Canadian citizen or a PR, whatever your status is. So
Right.
she doesn't need any travel authorization. She doesn't, as long as she can prove her relationship with you at the airport to the border officials and the airline.
Right.
She'll be able to board the flight, no problem.
Right. And visa processing is the same, right? Like again, VFS through VFS, like she can apply for the visitor visa or anything.
No. Everything is online. Everything is
online.
online. No paper. So you don't have to deal with VFS at the time of application. Once the application is submitted and approved, then VFS only comes into play for passport stamping. So you have to submit your passport to VFS so that VFS can forward it to the consulate. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And we're getting some amazing comments, which I'll show because you can see them. Amazing event. Thank you so much for arranging this. Thank you, Shafali. And I think it was Arshia who asked about the citizenship and the VFS. So hi, Arshia. Okay, let me just check if I am getting any more comments. Yes, there's one more question. Let's take that one. If parents have a US visitor visa and biometrics done, will it be beneficial?
So yes, absolutely. Just pick up if your parents have a visitor visa application in process, then you can do the web form. If you need any help with the web form, you can contact me. I won't charge you. I'll just guide you what to do. So visitor visa, you can do the web form. You can inform through the web form that your parents are on the exempt list. You have to give your application number, your parents' name, their email address, their UCI number, and a small description of why they're on the exempt list. Attach supporting documents like your birth certificate or anything that proves your relationship with your parents, and your parents' visa will be processed.
Okay, that's great. And I'll probably take one last question, and let me see if this one. Oh no, I think we covered this one. Okay, there we go. Shifali, what do you have suggest to whom they're going to submit their PR application soon?
Well, I think first and foremost, make sure you're eligible. Be extremely cautious with the documentation. Make sure you are submitting a comprehensive and complete documentation. And what else? Give accurate information. Make sure the documents are there. That's about it. And immigration is no rocket science. If I can do it, you can do it.
That's true. It's daunting at first because you have to be so cautious about the information you're providing, be very, very careful and diligent about what you're entering and gather all the information, and you feel like, oh my God, it's such a big process to do it. But I guess once you start doing it and you have everything in place, it's a simple process and like straightforward process.
It's straightforward, but because I'm in this profession, I know some applications are complex. Some applications can be very, very complex, and you need a professional to look at it because you don't want to risk it. And why I say I'm a what I mean, we're no different. We're human beings too, right? But the only thing is that because we deal with a large number of applications on day-to-day basis, we've dealt with many situations. So our insight into the processing of applications is a little different than probably you, Neha, because you'll probably only deal with your case, right? Exactly. But we, on the other hand, deal with so many different cases that it becomes a little our awareness on the subject matter is much wider. So if it's complex, if it's complicated, definitely use a professional to do it. If you don't have the time, don't do it, because this process is time consuming. And if you're underconfident, don't do it. These are the three things. If it's complex, if you're underconfident, or if you don't have the time, then don't do your application on your own. Otherwise, it's no rocket science. Another thing that I always tell my clients is that this happens too often. I'll get these clients to me and be like, we've done everything. We just want you to take a look at it. I'm like, okay, I'll review the application. And they're like, why don't you just take it on from here? I'm like, why do you need me? You've done everything. You don't need me. I'll just review it for you and you're good. Take your application, be confident and submit it. But yeah, I mean, even from your group, I've had a few people reach out to me that, Shefali, we've done the application. Can you just review it? Sure, I'll review it. Especially sponsorship applications. All those paper-based applications, they can sometimes be very complex in terms of, making sure you've filled up the forms properly, you've attached the documents properly. But other than that, that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shefali. Seriously, I think so many questions have been answered in couple of topics and these queries that were coming live. I really want to say thank you for taking out time and sharing your knowledge and expertise. I think this is one very serious, very important topic, and we always have some doubt or the other, and we look for confirmation. And I'm so glad that I know you and you're part of Indian Women's Circle, and you were ready to just jump in and do this event. It was actually planned quite last minute, so thank you so much. And I am so sure that it has been beneficial to so many people who have asked their questions, and even otherwise, I guess it has given a lot of information around OCI and super visa and the processing times and who can travel from India, and from who can come from India, who can travel to India, if you're in US or your status as a PR or Canadian citizen, right? So lots and lots of things. You've covered a lot. So once again, thank you so much, and wonderful comments are coming in. Wonderful event. Thank you, girls. Very informative. I'm so happy that you all are finding it beneficial and informative. When literally, Shefali, on our group last month, I saw every other day people were asking what do I do about this? Have you heard about this? What is the processing time? Can I apply for OCIs? They need restriction. How can my mom come because I'm expecting, or something like that, right? All those type of questions were there, and that's when I thought, let's do this. So
yeah, no, I know. And with immigration recently, what has happened is that there has been, there has been so much information, and things have been changing last minute. And it's so funny, and I joke about this with my colleagues too. Today we'll have an update, and then by the time we process that information, we start implementing it in our day-to-day, work routine. There's a new update. and they've completely gotten rid of that
With the
previous
old one.
policy. And we're like, really? Like, I mean, there's just so much information to process that it becomes hard sometimes. So, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. There's it's just so confusing right now with all of immigration, travel, restrictions and requirements, and arrive can and quarantine and negative tests and all of that. So it's just too much.
It's too much. And actually, one of the comments is that someone is actually asking for your number, which I don't have right now, but I promise after the event I will post it on the group. But yeah, Shafali is more than I know Shafali, and she's always been so kind, and I'm sure she'll be able to look at your application. I think Neha is asking for your number because she had a very specific code worded application. So once again, I want to just say thank you, Shafali, and I want to say thank you everyone who joined us today and for asking these questions. These will not only be helpful to you, but I'm sure will be helpful to so many other people who are going to watch this probably later on our group or outside. So thank you again, and thank you, Shafali, once again, and have a wonderful weekend. And it's going to be Father's Day tomorrow, so happy Father's Day to everybody, and good night.
Thank
Thank you
you so
so
much,
much.
Neha. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who joined the live session. I know 9 to 10 on a Saturday evening is not the best time to listen to immigration information. Um, it's my profession, so I can talk. I actually sleep, breathe, dream, do all of that with immigration. But thank you so much to all of you for joining at such a late time. And thank you, Neha, for having me. As always, I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And that's it. Good night, guys. Enjoy
Good
yourself.
night. Good night, everyone. Bye.